Yo! What up, everybody? I'm Rim. Like and subscribe and watch my other videos. So, apparently the Barbie movie Trojan horsed the box office and is doing pretty well for itself on its release. And that makes sense. It's a kids movie, so a lot of parents are going to take their kids to watch it. Even I considered watching it, if only to consume some form of media outside of anime that isn't so filled with socio-political divisiveness that the schism permeating throughout our society can be felt also ripping my soul into pieces. And I have a little kid niece who likes Barbie, so it could have helped me spend some time with her had I actually chosen to watch it. But as if God himself wanted to stop me from subjecting that young femoid from the bullshit that Hollywood forces onto the public, I received a notification this morning that the critical drinker himself watched it specifically so that I would not have to.
Now, before I dive into this review properly, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the hard work and genius PR campaign of the Warner Brothers marketing department.
So, this piqued my curiosity because, I mean, it's a fucking Barbie movie. It is based on a children's toy. Who would be so morally depraved as to tie misandrist propaganda to a children's toy? So, I looked over a few more reviews about the movie, and a lot of them said something similar to what he said. But a lot also mentioned something even more interesting than another misandrist mess of a media property shit out by Hollywood. A lot of people were talking about the topic of a target audience. So I decided that I wanted to review these points before I decided to watch the movie myself. And I picked out the three that stood out the most to me. First off was the critical drinker. I already showed a small bit of what I clipped, but I'm gonna play the remainder. Here you go.
Now, before I dive into this review properly, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the hard work and genius PR campaign of the Warner Brothers marketing department. You guys really pulled off a miracle with this one, successfully duping all of us, including me, into believing that Barbie was going to be just another colourful, light-hearted, easygoing family comedy. What none of us expected was 114 minutes of spiteful, bitter, mean-spirited, borderline unhinged hatred of men and everything even vaguely associated with them.
So he thinks that this is just literally it, that it's sexist and that the messaging is 100% misandrist, which based on past trends may not be the biggest leap in logic. Like, I really do believe that these Hollywood people really are that desperate that they would sell their propaganda by hiding it during the trailer, so that the people who 100% are not interested in hearing it, and that the parents that take their kids to see the movie, like the wives and mothers, wouldn't be aware that this movie was just another way for Hollywood to hate on their husbands and sons. And the husbands and fathers wouldn't be aware that this was just another way for women to bitch at them for the crime of just trying to live their lives. Hollywood sucks. I'm not sure if I said that yet.
This is going to come as a huge surprise. I am not the target audience for the new Barbie movie. So let's dive in a bit. The movie has a lot of charm to it. Also, speaking of the comedy, this movie is pretty much a full-blown comedy, though it does want to deliver a message, and it spends a lot of time developing and delivering that message. But the focal point is on the comedy. There was many times that jokes just went to pure fucking silence. But then there were some that landed in a big way where the theater lost their fucking mind, so it had some high highs and low lows when it comes to its comedy here. The message is definitely geared towards younger girls. It's meant to inspire them and teach them that, you know, even though society puts a lot of pressure on women, it's good to be yourself. It's okay to feel a certain way about certain things. It's okay to not know exactly what you want to do in life. It delivers a message that I think would resonate more with a younger girl. Now, I've definitely got to mention, the word patriarchy here is used at least 2,000 times in the last second half of this film. That becomes a huge focal point for the plot, is the patriarchy. But then it becomes like, the main evil they fight against is the patriarchy. I am definitely just not the target demographic, as surprising as that is to hear. I know it's fucking shocking. But even still, I didn't hate the film or anything.
Okay, so I can admit, so far it seems like when you look at it with an open mind, and since I haven't watched it yet, that is all I really can do, it does seem like this movie was just attempting to sell a specific message to women and young girls, which I think is fair. Now, having prejudiced opinions does not automatically make your ignorance morally righteous, just by virtue of having a target audience. But at least these types of writers have their own audience to sell to now. They no longer will be hijacking the properties loved by audiences that they are showing so much hatred towards, like they have been doing. And in this instance, it would be men that they are hating on. And let's talk about that real quick. I usually don't like to hate on the actors unless they openly preach their prejudiced ideals, but why do the men who play in these roles put themselves in these situations? I mean, I know if I was there, it would be because of money, but I'm poor, so an acting role like Ryan Gosling has in this movie would change my life. But these are famous actors. They have fuck you money. So they should be able to be a bit more particular with what they put out into the world because they are rich. So I would assume that they can choose which jobs that they want to take. Now, a job is a job, and if that is their mentality, more power to them. But you can't tell me money is worth your integrity. And you can say that I believe that because I am poor, and yeah, I would agree with you. I live a life of wanting, and I still try and live by that ideal as best as I can. I have quit jobs simply because I didn't believe in the way that they did business, and I have been homeless because of those decisions. And yes, I consider those decisions as mistakes, but only because I should have prepared better before I quit. 100%, I do still believe money is not worth your integrity. If you need money and you have a family, or even if you're alone and starving, I understand compromising your integrity to some extent. And I would even recommend keeping a job you hate for whatever reason in instances where you really need the money to live. But in the context of this fucking movie and these fucking actors, I am inclined to believe that they just do not care about the messages that this movie is pushing, or the grimy way that they pushed it. Also, there is another perspective that needs to be considered, which is the perspective that the people who made this movie found their target audience, and despite pushing a possible prejudiced message, it was all in good fun because they wanted to sell a fun little movie with a few sexist jokes aimed toward men. It has been done before, most recently with the movie Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. The writers claimed to be emasculating men, but in the movie, that isn't really what happened. Side note, I never made a review of that movie, even though I want to, so I'll say this now, before I move on. But my trailer review was 100% wrong about the politics in that movie, but I'll talk about it later because I'm talking about Barbie right now.
Throughout the first half of 2023, we've seen so many massive, big-budget blockbuster failures for Hollywood. That is the opposite of what we're seeing this weekend. Two movies that don't have massive $200 million budgets, and two movies that are dominating the box office. Very different movies for very different audiences, but nonetheless, Barbie and Oppenheimer, the matchup of the year, is doing huge things at the box office. And when you look at Barbie, 155 million, if it continues to track like this, it's probably going to end up more than that, to be honest with you. It has had the biggest opening day of 2023. And when it comes to Barbie, I've been saying this on every stream or show that I've been on in the past couple weeks. Whenever the topic of Barbie has gotten brought up, people have said, well, I don't know, I think the feminist messaging could, really hurt at the box office. One of the things I was trying to tell people is this is not the same audience that we're used to rejecting some of that messaging. In fact, Barbie is a brand that is almost exclusively women. It was a movie that was made for adult women, and it was marketed towards adult women. Spoiler alert, when that is your core audience and you push hardcore feminist messaging, it's not going to have as big of an effect. You're not going to see the same type of pushback or backlash for something like that as you do when Hollywood tries to put that in male-dominated franchises. like Star Wars or Marvel or DC, or even something like Ghostbusters, where the fan base is predominantly male. In fact, what I would argue, the massive success of Barbie, hopefully people will learn that, guess what, it's okay to make movies for men and movies for women.
This makes sense. It is something that even I have brought up before when talking about Dove in a different video. Barbie has a mainly female audience, and you are going to find more females who buy into this type of messaging than men. So less people are going to be hostile towards it because less women are going to care about that feminist messaging, and a lot of them are probably going to resonate with it. Versus Star Wars and Marvel and video games, pretty much in general, which are by and large male dominated. So trying to use that for a feminist message is just seen as mean-spirited and basically hijacking. Now, that doesn't make the misandrist messaging any less mean-spirited, and if it really is as mean-spirited as Critical Drinker makes it seem, then even a large portion of the female audience will eventually get tired of it. But honestly, if these writers want to gear their work towards a feminist audience, then generally the women-dominated audience surrounding things like Barbie is a great start. Then, hopefully, Hollywood will stop ruining, like, everything else in the realm of escapist fiction. They won't. I mean, I am 99% sure they're gonna see this and start pumping out more feminist bullshit in everything, not just female-dominated fan bases. Now, regarding everything in this video, I am only going by word of mouth, so I plan on doing a follow-up of this movie at some point so I can review it and do some more research, but I don't want to pay for it, so I'll try and wait until it leaves theaters, and I'll watch it on whatever streaming services it ends up on. Because the writers will still get their money, and I don't gotta pay extra. But the reason I bring this up is because I have to be fair, and since I am simply going by word of mouth, Drinker and Moist Critical could have read the movie wrong. Ryan Cannell, the other guy who talked about the audiences, could be wrong about the reason for the success. All of the other reviewers that I watched could have read the movie wrong. But based on what I heard about the ending, it is very cut and dry. And since I don't care about spoiling it, apparently the movie is set in a matriarchal world where Barbies rule and Ken dolls are stupid, useless, well, dolls who only exist to simp for their Barbies. And then for reasons, Barbie has to go to the human world. And she finds out that the world is super misogynistic, which then rubs off on the leader of the Ken dolls, and he rallies all of the Ken dolls into becoming sexist little based boys. And through the power of women being better than men, the Barbies trick the Ken dolls into once again being simpy little bitch boys who live under their female overlord's thumbs. Like, this movie is clearly pushing a message based on what I have heard, and which I will confirm for myself. But I wanted to talk about it because honestly, since there are so many different channels who are typically neutral, I mean, Drinker was even positive about that one movie, Prey, which I 100% disagree with, but I digress. Since there are so many people saying that it's really misandrist, I am inclined to believe them. So hopefully nobody else watches it after learning what it's about. However, I am a tiny baby channel, so if I get at least like 11 subscribers or more from this video alone and like 15 likes, with like one comment asking me to review it, I would whore myself out, and I'll do it. I'd like do a full 2-hour video breaking down every aspect of that pitch, down to like the follicles growing hair on Margot Robbie's leg. Honestly, just because I would be flattered by the event. I have a goal of 50 subscribers, so I feel like that would be a fair compromise. While I'm tiny at least. But even if I don't get 250 subs from this video alone, or even just get 11 subscribers from this video alone, just one subscriber closer to this small goal and milestone is appreciated from the bottom of my heart, because every subscriber is helping me out. Okay, I'm Rim, thank you for watching, and remember that neither men or women are bad. The people who try to convince you that one or the other is bad are the actual bad ones. Okay, I'm done for now. Bye-bye.